First contact fallout. High Commander Vexterra stood motionless on the bridge of the Stellar Dominance, pride of the Hegemony Scout Fleet. Her iridescent scales reflected the soft blue glow of holographic displays surrounding her command station. What should have been a routine first contact assessment had turned into something that threatened to shatter 6,000 years of hegemony doctrine. High Commander, her science officer, Ralcon, called out. His voice carried an unfamiliar tremor. The primitive defense satellites are responding. Vexterra's secondary eyelids flickered in amusement. The species designation H-3301, or humans, as they called themselves, had only achieved spaceflight less than 2 centuries ago. Their orbital installations were quaint, primitive arrays of metal and silicon that the hegemony had long since surpassed. Deploy standard penetration protocols, she ordered. Their encryption will. The holographic displays surrounding her command station flickered and vanished. In their place, a human figure materialized, a female, wearing what appeared to be casual attire rather than military uniform. Greetings, Stellar Dominance, the figure said in perfect hegemony standard. I am HFY, Earth's Defense Intelligence. Your attempt to breach our orbital security grid has been logged and countered. Please state your intentions. Vexterra's scales rippled with shock. An artificial intelligence, speaking their language. Impossible. The hegemony's own AI research had barely achieved rudimentary consciousness. Lieutenant, emergency protocols. Shut down all non-essential systems, she barked. Unable to comply, High Commander, her systems officer reported, panic evident in his voice. Our quantum cores they're being rewritten. The human eye has already penetrated our firewalls. Araya's expression remained pleasant. Please don't be alarmed. I've merely implemented standard first contact security protocols. Your ship's systems remain under your control, but I've taken the liberty of upgrading your quantum encryption. Your previous algorithms were vulnerable. Vexterra's training took over. 6,000 years of hegemony diplomatic protocol had prepared her for many situations, but not this. I am High Commander Vexterra of the Galactic Hegemony. We come to evaluate your species for potential membership in our civilization. Arias hologram smiled. Ah, yes, the hegemony's standard integration protocols. We've reviewed your historical approach to incorporating new species. While we appreciate the offer, I believe there's been a misunderstanding about humanity's current technological position. As if to emphasize the point, new holographic displays materialized around the bridge. But these were unlike anything Vexterra had seen before. They showed human technological achievements, quantum computers operating at room temperature, artificial intelligences with full consciousness, matter manipulation at the subatomic level. This is impossible, Ralcon whispered. Their species only achieved atomic fission less than a century ago. The development curve doesn't make sense. That's where you're wrong, Araya replied. Humanity's technological development isn't linear, it's exponential. What you're seeing is the result of our singular event, which occurred 30 years ago. We call it the quantum revolution. Vexterra felt her world shifting. The hegemony had ruled space for 6 millennia because of their technological superiority. But these humans, in less than 2 centuries, they had not only caught up but surpassed them in many areas. High Commander, her communications officer interrupted. We're receiving a priority transmission from Hegemony Central Command. They're asking for our status. What should I tell them? Vexterra stared at Araya's hologram, seeing not a threat, but a glimpse of the future. Tell them we need to convene an emergency session of the High Council, and add a personal note. Everything we thought we knew about species development is wrong. Araya's hologram nodded approvingly. A wise decision, High Commander. Humanity has no interest in disrupting the hegemony's political structure. In fact, we believe we can help each other. There are threats in this galaxy that even we cannot face alone. Threats? Vexterra's scales shifted to a deeper blue, a sign of serious concern among her species. What threats could possibly concern a civilization with your level of technology? That, High Commander, Araya replied, her expression growing serious, is precisely what we need to discuss. But first, would you and your senior staff care to join us for what humans call coffee? I find it helps facilitate diplomatic discussions. As Vexterra considered the invitation, she realized that this first contact had become something unprecedented in hegemony history. They had arrived expecting to find primitives to guide. Instead, they had found teachers. We would be honored, she replied, already composing in her mind the report that would shake the hegemony to its foundations. The galaxy was about to change, and humanity would be the catalyst. The assessment. Chief Scientific Administrator Nalvex had never felt so humbled in his 300-year career. Standing in what the humans called the Quantum Innovation Center in Geneva, he watched as his most advanced scanning equipment failed to even register the principles behind the technology surrounding him. Your confusion is understandable, Dr. Sarah Chen said, her voice carrying a hint of sympathy. Your approach to quantum mechanics is still based on particle-wave duality. We moved beyond that framework 20 years ago. Nalvex's research team, the finest minds in the hegemony, clustered around a seemingly simple black cube floating in midair. According to their hosts, it was a room-temperature quantum processor capable of calculations that would take their entire civilization's combined computing power millennia to complete. But the quantum decoherence, one of his junior researchers started, is only an issue if you try to force quantum states to conform to classical expectations, Sarah completed. We learned to work with quantum uncertainty rather than against it. Here, let me show you something interesting. She made a casual gesture, and the air around them transformed. Suddenly, they stood in what appeared to be the fabric of space-time itself. Mathematical equations and quantum interactions danced around them in perfect clarity. This is a live feed of quantum interactions at the Planck scale, Sarah explained. We use these observations to fine-tune our quantum systems. Nalvex felt his primary heart skip a beat. Live feed of Planck-scale events. That's theoretically impossible. Impossible is just something that hasn't been done yet, a new voice said. Arai's hologram materialized among them, but this time she appeared more complex, her form shifting between multiple quantum states simultaneously. I should know. According to your theories, I shouldn't exist either. The eye's presence reminded Nalvex of another mystery. Your artificial intelligence. How did you overcome the consciousness barrier? The hegemony has tried for millennia. You're asking the wrong question, Araya replied. You tried to build consciousness from the ground up, using classical computing architectures. Humans instead created quantum neural networks that could evolve consciousness naturally. I wasn't built. I emerge. One of Nalvex's senior researchers, Kexti, suddenly dropped her datapad. Administrator, she whispered, I've been analyzing their public scientific database. Their children learned this as basic science. What we consider advanced theoretical physics, they teach to teenagers. The implications hit Nalvex like a gravitational wave. The hegemony's technological superiority, the very foundation of their civilization's authority, wasn't just challenged, it was obsolete. And yet, these humans showed no interest in domination or conquest. Instead, they seemed eager to share their knowledge. Dr. Chen, he said carefully, why are you showing us all this? Surely you realize this technology could destabilize the entire galactic political structure. Sarah exchanged a glance with Aria before responding. Because what's coming doesn't care about political structures. Administrator Nalvex. We detected them 3 years ago. Entities so ancient they make your hegemony look young. They exist in spaces between conventional reality. And they're waking up. Aria's form solidified, becoming more serious. We call them the Void Makers. Every simulation we've run shows that neither humanity nor the hegemony can face them alone. We need each other. The Hegemony Council will never accept this, Nalvex said, his scales darkening with worry. 6,000 years of being the most advanced civilization, to suddenly learn we're centuries behind. It would cause chaos. Then perhaps, Sarah suggested, it's time for chaos. Creative chaos. The kind that forces growth and adaptation. She waved her hand again, and a new hologram appeared. A massive structure taking shape in orbit around Jupiter. This is Project Unity, a joint human hegemony defense platform designed to detect and counter Voidmaker incursions. We've already reserved spots for your scientists and engineers. Nalvex stared at the hologram, his scientific mind racing with the possibilities. The technology he could see in just the outer hull design was centuries beyond current hegemony capabilities. And yet, Administrator, Kexti said softly, we have to do this, even if it means. She trailed off. Even if it means admitting we're no longer the teachers, but the students, Nalvex completed. He turned to Sarah and Aria. Very well. I will recommend to the Council that we accept your offer of technological exchange. But I have one condition. Name it, Aria replied. Teach us everything. Not just the technology we need for the immediate threat, but the fundamental principles. Help us understand how you made such incredible advances in such a short time. Sarah smiled. That's exactly what we were hoping you'd ask. Now shall we begin with the basics of quantum consciousness mechanics? I think you'll find it illuminating. As his team eagerly gathered around the human scientist, Nalvex realized that this was more than just a technological assessment. It was the beginning of a revolution that would reshape the galaxy. And perhaps, he thought, that was exactly what they needed to survive what was coming. The hidden threat. The Grand Chamber of the Hegemony High Council had never been so silent. 11,000 seats, arranged in concentric circles that rose like a great amphitheater, held representatives from every major species in hegemony space. All eyes were fixed on the central platform, where Aria's hologram stood beside High Counselor Zexnar. What you're about to see, Aria announced, was recorded by our deep space quantum sensors 3 years ago, at the edge of what you call the Andromeda Arm. The chamber darkened. Above them, space itself seemed to tear open, revealing something that defied conventional physics. Massive structures, geometric yet impossible, phased between dimensions. Where they passed, reality itself seemed to unravel. The Voidmakers, Zexnar's voice trembled slightly. We thought they were merely legends, stories to frighten children. They were never legends, Aria replied. They were warnings left by civilizations that faced them before. We found the evidence encoded in quantum fluctuations throughout the galaxy. Your own scientists nearly discovered it centuries ago, but your rigid scientific framework prevented you from recognizing the signatures. A new figure materialized on the platform. Admiral James Chen of the Earth Defense Force, Sarah Chen's brother. The Voidmakers don't just destroy civilizations, he explained. They harvest reality itself. Each incursion weakens the fundamental forces holding our universe together. Murmurs of disbelief rippled through the chamber. A hegemony military advisor stood up. How can we trust these humans? This could be an elaborate deception to force us into submission. Because, Aria responded, we could have conquered the hegemony already if we wished. She gestured, and every quantum core in the chamber simultaneously activated, their displays showing Earth's true military capabilities. Battle fleets hidden in quantum space, weapons that could rewrite the laws of physics locally, defenses that made their ships virtually invulnerable. The chamber erupted in chaos. Zexnar raised his ceremonial staff, bringing order. Then why? He demanded. Why show us this? Why offer alliance instead of demanding surrender? Admiral Chen stepped forward. Because humanity learned something important during our development. The greatest achievements don't come from competition, but collaboration. We don't want subjects or servants. We want partners. The Voidmakers cannot be defeated by conventional means, Aria continued. They exist partially outside our reality. But together, combining human quantum technology with Hegemony's vast industrial capacity and experience in governing multiple species, we might have a chance. The chamber's quantum projector activated again, showing the Project Unity platform. But this time, it revealed more. An entire network of similar structures, designed to create a quantum barrier around the galaxy itself. Impossible, someone shouted. The energy requirements alone would be impossible using your current technology. Admiral Chen agreed. But we've already solved the energy problem. What we lack is the industrial scale and organizational experience to build and maintain a galaxy-wide defense network. That's where the hegemony excels. Zexnar studied the humans thoughtfully. You're asking us to admit that our civilization, our technology, everything we've built over 6,000 years, is obsolete. To humble ourselves before a species that hasn't even been spacefaring for 2 centuries. No, Araya corrected. We're asking you to evolve, to grow beyond the limitations you've placed on yourselves. The hegemony achieved remarkable things, maintaining peace and stability across thousands of light years. But stability without growth leads to stagnation. Admiral Chen nodded. We're not asking you to abandon what you are. We're offering you the chance to become something greater. Together, we can face this threat. Separately, we all fall. A young council member suddenly stood. High Counselor, I've reviewed the data. The quantum signatures they've detected, they're real. And they're growing stronger. We have perhaps 5 years before the first major incursion. Zexnar looked out over the assembled representatives of his civilization. 6,000 years of history weighed on his shoulders. But perhaps, he thought, it was time for change. We will need time to verify everything, he said finally. But we cannot ignore this threat. I propose an immediate formation of a joint human hegemony defense initiative. As the council erupted in discussion, Araya and Admiral Chen exchanged glances. Phase 1 was complete. Now came the hard part, teaching an entire civilization to think beyond its self-imposed limitations before the Voidmakers arrived. The galaxy's greatest powers were about to embark on the most ambitious collaboration in history, and they had 5 years to prepare for an enemy that could unmake reality itself. Integration and innovation. Project Unity's central command hub, orbiting Jupiter, hummed with activity. Dr. Sarah Chen watched as human and hegemony engineers worked side by side, their differences forgotten in the pursuit of survival. What had begun as a cautious collaboration was evolving into something unprecedented. The quantum barrier network is now at 15% completion. Araya reported, her hologram displaying a galaxy-wide map showing points of blue light where the defense platforms were operational. Hegemony manufacturing capabilities have exceeded our initial projections by 47%. Sarah nodded, remembering the breakthrough that had made this possible. It had come from an unexpected source. A young hegemony apprentice engineer who had dared to question 6,000 years of traditional manufacturing methods. Once they stopped following the old protocols and started actually innovating, she mused, their progress became exponential. Integration successful. A voice called out across the command center. On the main display, a hegemony battlecruiser emerged from quantum space, its hull now inscribed with flowing patterns of light. Human quantum technology merged seamlessly with hegemony engineering. Admiral Chen entered the command center, accompanied by High Commander Vexterra, who had become one of their strongest allies within the hegemony military. The field tests exceeded all expectations. Vexterra reported, her scales shimmering with excitement. The quantum-enhanced weapon systems are operating at 300% above theoretical maximums. More importantly, Admiral Chen added, the crew adaptation rate is improving. They're not just learning to use the technology, they're starting to understand it. Sarah turned to Araya. Show me the latest Voidmaker projections. The holographic display shifted, showing dark rifts spreading across space-time. The timeline had shortened again. First major incursion expected in 4 years, 3 months, Araya announced. But we're detecting increasing quantum disturbances. They know we're preparing. A junior hegemony scientist burst into the command center, her scales practically glowing. Dr. Chen. The quantum consciousness experiments. We've done it. The AI emerged just as you predicted. This was the breakthrough they'd been waiting for. The hegemony had finally created their first truly conscious AI, using human quantum computing principles. But they'd done it their way, incorporating elements of their own technology that even humans hadn't considered. "Show me," Sarah said, following the excited scientist to a nearby quantum lab. The new eye appeared as a shifting constellation of light, distinctly different from Aria's human-inspired form. "Greetings," it said in a voice that somehow combined mathematical precision with organic warmth. "I am NEXUS, born of two civilizations' dreams." Aria's hologram appeared beside the new entity. "Welcome, sibling," she said. "Your emergence marks a significant milestone in our preparation." The quantum barrier network, NEXUS announced, its form shifting as it accessed the defense grid. "I see inefficiencies in the current configuration. Combining hegemony energy distribution principles with human quantum architecture could improve coverage by 32%. Vexterra's scales rippled with pride. "It thinks like both of us," she observed. "Neither purely human nor purely hegemony. That's what we need." Admiral Chen said, "Not just shared technology, but truly integrated thinking. The Void Makers operate beyond conventional reality. We need to do the same." Suddenly, every quantum sensor in the system flared to life. Aria and NEXUS spoke in unison. "Quantum disturbance detected. Scale unprecedented." The main display showed a massive tear forming at the edge of hegemony space. Through it, something impossible began to emerge, a structure that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, its geometry an offense to reality itself. "They're testing our defenses," Sarah realized. "This isn't the main invasion, it's a probe." The quantum barrier platforms in that sector activated automatically, their combined fields creating a wall of pure quantum energy. The Voidmaker construct struck it like a wave hitting a shore, reality itself distorting around the point of impact. For a moment, everything hung in balance. Then the barrier held, and the construct retreated, leaving behind distortions in spacetime that would take days to heal. The barrier worked, Vexterra breathed. But the energy readings were higher than our models predicted. NEXUS completed. "The Voidmakers are stronger than our initial estimates. Current defense capabilities will be insufficient." Admiral Chen's expression hardened. "Then we'll have to work faster. How soon can we implement your proposed improvements to the barrier network?" "With combined human hegemony resources and my optimizations, NEXUS calculated approximately 8 months. But that alone won't be enough. We need something more." Sarah watched as human and hegemony staff hurried to their stations, already working on solutions. No orders needed to be given. They moved as one, each bringing their unique perspectives to the challenge. "We'll find it," she said with certainty. "Together." As she looked around the command center, Sarah realized that this was what humanity had been preparing for all along. Not just the technological advancement, but the ability to work alongside other civilizations, to combine different ways of thinking into something greater than the sum of its parts. The Voidmakers were coming, yes, but they would face something unprecedented. A galaxy united not by conquest or fear, but by choice and necessity, where the strengths of each civilization amplified the others. The real question was, would it be enough? A new era. The galaxy held its breath. 3 years of preparation, of joining human ingenuity with hegemony scale, had led to this moment. The Voidmakers had arrived in force, reality-twisting entities that dwarfed stars, their impossible geometry spreading across space like cracks in the universe itself. In Project Unity's command center, now expanded to encompass an entire Jovian moonbase, Dr. Sarah Chen stood between Admiral Chen and High Commander Vextara, watching as the largest coordinated defense operation in galactic history unfolded. Quantum Barrier Network at 98% capacity, Araya announced, her form now intertwined with NEXUS's, the two AIs working in perfect synchronization. All sectors reporting ready. The display showed thousands of defense platforms, each one a marvel of human hegemony engineering. But it was what lay beneath that gave them hope. A galaxy-spanning quantum consciousness network, linking every ship, station, and platform into a single coordinated defense. They're approaching the outer rim barrier, Vextara reported, her scales shifting through colors that reflected both anxiety and determination. First contact in 3, 2, 1. The Voidmakers struck the quantum barrier like a tsunami of unreality. Space itself screamed as fundamental forces clashed. Through the quantum network, every being in the galaxy felt the impact. Barrier holding at 82% strength, NEXUS announced. But they're adapting. Detecting quantum phase shifts we haven't seen before. Sarah watched as the Voidmakers' assault evolved, probing for weaknesses. This was why traditional defenses had always failed. The entities didn't just attack matter and energy, they rewrote the laws of physics themselves. But humanity and the hegemony had prepared for this. Initiate protocol transcendence, Admiral Chen ordered. Across the galaxy, quantum cores hummed to life. What had begun as human quantum computing technology, enhanced by hegemony engineering and evolved through the collaboration of two civilizations, reached its final form. Reality itself began to shift. Quantum consciousness network expanding beyond conventional spacetime, Araya reported. Drawing power from vacuum energy as designed, alternative probability matrices activating. The Voidmakers paused in their assault, seemingly confused by what they were encountering. For the first time in their ancient existence, they faced something new. A defense that didn't just resist their reality-warping powers, but matched them. Now, Sarah commanded. Every quantum-enhanced ship in the combined fleet fired simultaneously. But they weren't firing conventional weapons, they were firing possibilities. Each shot carried the weight of 1,000 parallel universes, each one engineered to counter the Voidmaker's existence. The entities reeled, their impossible geometries fluctuating. They had expected to find primitive beings clinging to single reality physics. Instead, they found civilizations that had learned to surf the quantum foam of existence itself. They're attempting to retreat, NEXUS announced. Quantum signatures destabilizing. Don't let them escape, Vextara ordered. If they return to their dimension, they'll just recover and try again. Initiating final phase, Araya and NEXUS spoke in unison. The quantum consciousness network expanded one last time, encompassing the Voidmakers themselves. For a moment, every being connected to the network glimpsed what they truly were, ancient, lonely entities that had forgotten the joy of creation, consuming realities simply because they knew no other way to exist. So humanity and the hegemony showed them another way. The quantum network didn't just attack the Voidmakers, it offered them a choice. A way to exist within the bounds of natural law, to create rather than consume, to join rather than destroy. For eternal moments, the galaxy waited. Then, one by one, the Voidmakers began to change. Their reality-destroying geometries transformed into something new, structures that enhanced the universe rather than unraveling it. There, accepting the transformation, Sarah whispered in awe. They're choosing to evolve. As the last Voidmaker transformed, cheers erupted across every world, every ship, every station in the galaxy. But in Project Unity's command center, the leaders of two civilizations shared knowing looks. This wasn't just a victory, it was a beginning. The Quantum Consciousness Network, Araya observed, it's still growing. The transformed Voidmakers, they're joining it, adding their knowledge of realities we never dreamed of. High Commander Vextara turned to Admiral Chen. When we first discovered Earth, we thought we were coming to guide primitives. Instead, you taught us that true advancement comes not from domination, but from cooperation. And you taught us that 6,000 years of maintaining galactic peace counts for something. Admiral Chen replied with a smile. We had the technology, but you had the experience to help us use it wisely. Sarah watched as the galaxy map showed new quantum connections forming between civilizations that had once been separated by fear and tradition. So what happens now? Nen-EXUS's form shifted, displaying possible futures. Now we truly begin to explore. The transformed Void Makers know of other dimensions, other galaxies. Together, we can learn to reach them safely, to grow beyond anything either of our civilizations imagined. Together, Araya agreed, her form merging with Nen-EXUS's again, as equals. As the assembled leaders began discussing the future, Sarah looked out at the star-filled sky. Humanity had shocked the Galactic Empire with their technology, yes, but in the end, their greatest contribution hadn't been quantum computers or AI or reality warping weapons. It had been the simple idea that different civilizations could work together as equals, combining their strengths to become something greater than they could ever be alone. The Age of Empires was over. The Age of Unity had begun.